Hello and welcome to the 49ers First and 10 podcast, 10 minutes of the most up-to-date 49ers news first thing in the morning. I'm your host, Brianna McDonald, and I'm joined by 49ers team reporter, Lindsay Pilares. The 49ers are now coming off 5 straight wins after defeating the Seattle Seahawks 28-16 at home last night. Lindsay, how would you break down the 49ers win from yesterday?
Yeah, I really think that head coach Kyle Shanahan said this best. It was not a perfect football game, but it was a win, which was the ultimate goal for week 14 to make sure they get that second win in 2023 against the Seattle Seahawks. It was one of those grinded out games where really the 49ers had some trouble getting stuff going offensively in that first half, but they really did make the big plays when it counted. And then you saw the defense really tighten up in that second half. And it ended up being a fairly comfortable win, 28-16, the final score yesterday. And like you said, 49ers are rolling 5 straight wins out of the bye, and they also have 5 straight wins against the Seahawks over the last 5 meetings. So mission accomplished for week 14.
And from that game, we've got 2 49ers players up for awards. Quarterback Brock Purdy is a nominee for the NFL's FedEx Air Player of the Week, and running back Christian McCaffrey is up for NFL FedEx Ground Player of the Week. Can you talk about their performances specifically and the value that they bring to San Francisco's offense?
Yeah, these are 2 players that just continue to stack success in 2023. Brock Purdy went 19 of 27 in his pass completions, and he threw for a career high 368 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and a quarterback and a rating of 122.1. Christian McCaffrey, 16 carries, 145 yards rushing, and then also had a catch for 8 yards. Just tremendous playmakers. It's hard to say who is like the top person on offense because you really just have so many people making it all happen. We saw Deebo Samuel have 2 touchdowns yesterday. George Kittle also added 1. Brock Purdy threw for, a career high 368 yards, and Christian McCaffrey rips off a 72-yard run on the first play of the game. So really it's hard to pinpoint who's going to be the hot hand on offense, but those 2 players in particular continue to stack the personal successes that lead to the team success. It's no surprise to see them nominated for these FedEx awards. Christian McCaffrey, this will be his 5th nomination. He's won the previous 4. Brock Purdy has 3 nominations, has won 2 FedEx awards this year. So again, just so well deserved. And, you hear their teammates speaking so highly of them. So, yeah, congrats to both of them for those nominations in week 14.
Yeah, it wasn't just one guy. There are so many impressive moments that come out of week 14. Brock Purdy and CMC got some recognition from the league, but there were a lot of other playmakers that helped put this win together. In fact, the 49ers became the first team this season to have at least one player with 300 or more passing yards, 2 players with 100 or more receiving yards, and 1 player with 100 or more rushing yards, all in the same game. I want to take a closer look at Deebo Samuel's recent performances. He scored 3 times in Philadelphia against the Eagles last week, then scored twice against the Seahawks yesterday. What did he and his teammates have to say about his game this season?
Yeah, I think everyone points back to Deebo Samuel's own assessment of his 2022 season and where he said he didn't play to the level that he wanted to. And now you've seen him come back in 2023 and just turn it all the way up. Like you mentioned, he's coming off an incredible three touchdown performance against Philadelphia, runs it back, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air yesterday. And again, he was just responsible for some of those big plays that really lifted the 49ers yesterday when, again, they were hitting some stalls in the offense. So again, Deebo Samuel just continues to also stack the accolades and the successes. And, he said again yesterday that he is just trying to be the best version of himself for this team. And you just see that very selfless mentality be reiterated from playmaker to playmaker. And I really think that is such a huge part of why the 49ers are enjoying so much success in 2023.
And it wasn't just Debo showing out in the receiving game. Yesterday against Seattle, wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk surpassed 1,000 receiving yards on the season, making it back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons for BA. And after the game, head coach Kyle Shanahan gave credit to Ayuk's maturity. So could you give us some more insight on what Shanahan was saying there?
Yeah, I mean, it's like hard to pinpoint who had a great game yesterday because really everybody had a great game. Brandon Aiyuk entered Sunday's contest just 73 yards shy of that 1,000-yard receiving mark. He got that and then some. He caught 6 passes for 126 yards. And I think really just what we've seen from Brandon Aiyuk when you factor Brock Purdy in there is that there is so much trust between those two. He is absolutely one of Brock Purdy's go-to guys. And yeah, head coach Kyle Shanahan, I asked him, what does Brandon Aiyuk continue to show you week after week? And again, it just goes back to that selfless play again. Sometimes it takes a second for BA to get the ball, but when he does, he'll make a big play for it. But you see BA really taking a lot of pride in the blocking game. He had a really nice block for Christian McCaffrey on that 72-yard run to open the game. He is all over the field. And, head coach Kyle Shanahan just expressed how happy he is to see Brandon Aiyuk just continuing to get his credit.
So, yeah, a huge day for the 49ers offense. We named almost every playmaker from that side of the ball, but it was a big day for the 49ers defense also. The unit came away with 4 sacks, 7 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and 5 tackles for loss. But who from that group really stood out to you from yesterday's contest?
And it's honestly, again, it's the same problem we have on offense. Who's the big playmaker? There were a lot of contributors. I think in general, big shout out to the defense for just tightening things up in the second half. And I think that the performance is made more impressive because they were dealing with their fair share of injuries. So there were a lot of guys stepping up in this game. You saw Diamador Lenore shift to that outside corner position for this game. And then Isaiah Oliver came in at nickel because of the very early injury to Charvarius Ward. He was injured, I think, 3 or 4 plays into the game. So just a tremendous shout out to the unit as a whole. But you see Fred Warner rack up 8 tackles and then an interception of Drew Lock. Then you see rookie Jair Brown, who has also been asked to step up in the face of the Talanoa Hufanga injury from week 11, and he's been playing really good. He got his second career interception. And then you see one of the newer additions to the 49ers defense, Chase Young. He was acquired right at the trade deadline, and you see him stop a 2-point conversion attempt. Then you see Nick Bosa add another sack and a half. Again, it's just a really great team effort, and it's so awesome to be able to call out so many big playmakers because there's no shortage of them on this team.
And regarding injuries, we haven't heard full details from head coach Kyle Shanahan just yet. But what did the team's injury report look like coming out of yesterday's game?
Yeah, this unfortunately was not a clean game health-wise for the 49ers, and they are going to be dealing with a fairly lengthy injury report. But injuries from the game, like I mentioned, cornerback Charvarius Ward, who has been the 49ers' top corner, he went out very early in the game with a groin injury and never returned. Linebacker Oren Burks is dealing with a knee injury. Defensive lineman Javon Hargrave, who has been a really integral part of that interior defensive line, got a hamstring injury. And then linebacker Dre Greenlaw suffered a hip injury, but he was out for a few plays and was able to come back. And like you mentioned, we're going to get some injury updates, but definitely not the list you want to see as the 49ers are continuing their playoff push. But the hope is that none of these will be lingering injuries.
And Faithful, keep your eye on 49ers.com. We'll have further details available online later today. But that will do it for this episode. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining me in this update. Don't forget to follow First and 10 on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Turn on the notifications so you're in the know when we post any breaking news updates. And thank you, Faithful, for tuning in.